What's your attitude? Your footy platitudes drag like the start of the week.
G'day guys, and welcome to episode 19 of Fergus Footy Fanfare. Episode Tom Lynch, if you'd like to say, and keeping it pretty relevant for this week, obviously, because he'll be fronting up in two grand finals in a row after deciding to leave Gold Coast as a unrestricted free agent, and maybe he's made a pretty decent choice. I don't know about you, Jay, but doing all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. And you're right about Tom Lynch making the solid choice. If, always had the talent in Gold Coast. And I guess the next step for him was to find somewhere where they'd get the most out of him. And when you have Richmond playing the way they are at the moment, it makes it easy enough for a man like Tom Lynch. It'll be interesting to see whether he receives much attention. There was little phases through last week's game where he did receive a fair bit. So be interesting to see whether Geelong comes out with that kind of mindset. They'll just be focused on themselves, which I think will be the case.
I do think he was a lot more tame last week, especially, obviously he copped, he copped it. I think it was after Dersma kicked a goal.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
He copped a fair bit of stick from a lot of the Port boys and Dersma as well. But I think he kept it pretty well level-headed. But I think in a grand final, I think you might see him a bit more uncaged because,
No, that's all right. You don't mind taking 6 weeks off in 2021.
That's right. If that means you're going to win a flag, I mean, I'm no expert, but I think I know which one I'd rather do.
Yeah, spot on. So how did you find the footy last week? I thought that it was, the first game was I thought it was an awesome game of football, considering I think the conditions made it a really good game of footy. Just given because of the wet nature of it, really tight, contested, sloppy, but understandably so, not to anyone's fault. Yeah,
it was a crap game, but a good game. I think, it was just really, it was a real territory battle. You sort of thought who was going to be cleaner in that, but it didn't really even come down to that. It just came down to who was able to win the territory. And obviously that's what we saw towards the end where, Port just started bombing it from defensive 50 and, really let Richmond play the way they want to play. They really played into Richmond's hands. You're playing into Richmond's hands or playing the way Richmond want you to play when you're bombing the ball from in your back half into your forward half, and that's when gives people like Nan Curvis, Asprey, Bolter, even Tom Lynch for a small patch went up back towards the end, and it's been able to take those marks or at least force it out of bounds or force a stoppage of some sort.
Yeah, I thought that at 3/4 time the writing was on the wall a little bit. I thought that Port Adelaide had been playing really good footy. And I thought that if they played like that for another quarter, then they probably would have got the job done. But to Richmond's credit, and I guess that's where the experience and just the, kind of that confidence in themselves to know that they'll be able to get through it. And their last quarter, like for a non-clearance side against a clearance side in Port Adelaide, Richmond dominated in the middle and they were able to really impose themselves on the contested mark and intercept marks. So I know that Charlie Dixon kicked a goal to put them in the lead with about 12 minutes left, but in the last quarter, Port Adelaide never really looked like winning that game. So I think that just goes to credit how well Richmond played and how they were able in such difficult conditions to get the game in their own hands. Says a lot about them.
Do you think Port are too reliant on Charlie Dixon? Obviously, and I think there was a few stats flying around that whenever Dixon didn't really have a good day, Port don't really have a good day. But obviously, it wasn't going to be a great day for key forwards of any sort. We saw that Jack Rewald had quite a stinker. Lynch only kicked one. Dixon only kicked one. I don't think Marshall did much from memory for Port. So are they maybe a bit too reliant on Charlie Dixon?
I think they'd love, along with a lot of other teams, they'd love a second forward to kind of assist him. Um, but I don't think they were overly reliant on him. And given the conditions, they couldn't afford to be. It was just a matter of, in the last quarter, I feel like they got their numbers mixed up a lot. And you're right, in Port Adelaide, we're just bombing the ball. And that's Richmond's bread and butter. Nankervis had a whole bunch of intercept marks. He was awesome in the last quarter. I thought that was a bit of an issue for Port Adelaide. With about 5 or 6 minutes left, they got into a bit of a repetitive nature where Nankervis would take an intercept mark, boot it down the wing, and Laddams was there. You'd surely, once you get to that stage, you're down by 3 points. You've got 2 or 3 minutes on the clock. You end up conceding a few points. Just get man on man in your forward 50 and just bomb it down there. And every time it went down there, Charlie Dixon wasn't there, Todd Marshall wasn't there, and a Richmond player was.
Yeah, I thought, especially probably that last 7 minutes, I think Port really, really panicky that, they knew that they were probably going to have to kick another 2 goals or 3 goals to win the game. And they sort of just bombed it without thinking and just hoping, from what I viewed, they were just hoping that either a Richmond player would drop the mark or they somehow come up with a mark or the ball, ends up out of bounds and they can somehow work it forward.
Now, before we get stuck into this, I was just scrolling through my phone. I have some breaking news for you, Ned. And we talked about this last week on You Can't Be Doing That with the MCG turf making its way up to Gabba. So I've just seen on the 7AFL Facebook site, the MCG turf has been up to the Gabba and it's arrived. It's been placed down and it's not even on the playing field.
Yeah, right.
I think it's on the side of the bench. It's about 50 meters out, but it's not even on the playing field.
Gee whiz. Yeah, that's...
if that's, you take that as it is, but if that's true, then that's just absolutely ridiculous. Can't be doing that. That's outrageous.
Yeah, especially when they claim to not have that much money to fund AFLW. I know yourself and I are probably not the biggest AFLW fans, but I think that still is a bit of a kick to the face, in a sense that they claim there's not enough money, there's not enough money to spend on women's football and, they're doing stuff like that.
Well, that's it. And, there's been so many people lobbying and advocating for and working their butts off to make sure that the women's game is more accessible and more convenient for everyone to attend to and more competitive. So, to kind of get in the way with little, cheap tokens such as this, which don't end up being that cheap in a financial term. Yeah, it's pretty poor, I would have thought. But I did interrupt you on the talk with Richmond. Did you have a standout player in particular for Richmond or Port Adelaide that seemed to get the job, bring him over the line?
Yeah, so for Richmond, I thought obviously Toby Nankervis was very good. Another player that I thought played really well was Noah Bolter. I know probably the addition of David Asprey into the side compared to the last time Richmond played Port Adelaide probably really helped him. But the first time over in Adelaide during the regular season, Charlie gave him a fair bath. But I thought Noah Bolter played really well. Really, really made Dixon work and he was barely beaten as well in the air. And another player that I thought was quite fantastic, and I still think he was robbed of a BNF as well, was Kane Lambert.
Yeah, he was instrumental in that last quarter.
In my book, second to Shane Edwards, most underrated player in the AFL.
Yeah, he doesn't get the accolades he deserves. And, I guess that's what you get rolling around with stars. But if you're going to be a very successful team, you need someone, that's just going to, do the hard yards. He travels the most out of all of your players, doesn't he, in terms of running through the course?
Generally, he's in that top 5 on the Telstra tracker.
Someone that, controversially for you, I know that he can be a bit of a whipping boy at times. I thought that Daniel Rioli played really well for you blokes.
His last 2 games have actually been quite good.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, you know, we talk quite regularly about it all and all that, and you know that I've been here and there with Rioli about whether, you know, I've always seen him as the, you know, as the 22nd man that,
Yeah.
you know, if someone's going to get dropped, it's going to be Rioli. And, you know, I was obviously pretty disappointed for Jake Arts, who got dropped. And I thought that, you know, if Rioli potentially plays a stinker and Richmond get up, that Arts might come in for him. But I can't see a change. I know you were probably just about to ask me that, but I don't see any changes this week.
Yeah, just over the last 2 games that he's played, he's been really he's been far less selfish, more selfless in the way that he's gone about it. There's been quite a few times I've noticed where he gets in the pocket and the first place that he looks is behind him for the extra man. And you're pretty safe with a Richmond game plan that there is going to be someone there, you know, kind of in that surge style. So, yeah, I've been really impressed with the way that he played. And I think he only had 12 disposals, but I think he had 11 of them were effective. So in the rain, you know, it's about as much as you can ask for. Would have liked a couple of goals, but can't have everything all the time. I'm just trying
That's
to
right.
Stats. Yeah, 13 touches and 12 effective. So if you get a similar go out of him next week, then
You'd be pretty happy with that.
Absolutely.
So then we moved on to the Saturday night where Geelong really made a meal out of Brisbane.
Yep. I thought Geelong were the better team throughout the whole game. However, leading into the halftime break, Geelong had kicked far more points than they had goals, and I honestly thought that was really going to come back to bite them. I think when Lachie Neale kicked that goal with a minute left in the second quarter, that reduced the margin to 7, and I feel like there was a shot after the halftime siren that might have made it 7 points. But the way that Geelong were able to come out in that third quarter and still maintain the dominance that they'd had, and this time put it on the scoreboard in terms of goals, you know, really solidified them. And, credit to them in terms of it's been speculative how they go in finals football. They've come up against the second best team consistently throughout the season at their home park. They hadn't lost a game until, they ended up beating them convincingly. So I guess the question that I have for you out of all of this, Ned, is where next for Brisbane, and do you see their 2020 season as a failure?
I think they're only going to get better. I think they've got so many good young players that you've got to remember that people like Rayner and Berry, McCluggage, 3 really good players, and obviously Harris Andrews still quite young. That like those 3 that I mentioned before, they're only in their 3rd, 4th year, not even.
Yeah,
and so they're only going to get better. They've had exposure now to, qualifying finals, preliminary finals. It's just going to be, I think it's always going to all depend on where they maybe play their finals. I think, if they end up having to play a semi-final against someone at the MCG, they might find themselves in strife.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think they're on the right track. Obviously, there's interest from Joe Danaher to go up there, so that's only going to strengthen their forward repertoire. So I think they're well placed. And I'm going to say, and being quite critical, I think it's a just fail. Just because I think that it's probably the perfect opportunity for them to win a flag, and they really blew it.
Yeah, I think it's in a similar boat to Port Adelaide, whereas if you looked at it from the start of the season and said, hey, look, and before all of this COVID stuff happened, you would say to Port Adelaide and Brisbane, hey guys, you've you've been knocked out in a prelim, would you take it? I think Port Adelaide definitely would, but when they got into the finals series, I think that they consider their finals campaign a failure, given how well they played throughout the home and away season. In terms of Brisbane Lions, I think that they're probably a bit disappointed they didn't take the next step, considering their record at the Gabba this year and, the unique opportunity that this year has provided them, subject to another huge pandemic, something similar. You'd imagine that what the MCG's contracted to have the grand final for the next 50 years, 2057 or maybe or 57 years.
Yes, something like that. Yeah.
A long time. So unless something diabolical happens again, they've missed an opportunity to play a home grand final, which, no other interstate teams had the opportunity to do. So,
yeah.
Oh, you go.
Yeah. So just as we wrap up the preliminary finals, I thought it'd be a good time for a bit of Ned's nuggets and knowledge about a player that played in one of those preliminary finals.
Okay.
That being one that we sort of spoke about a lot during the Richmond Port review. So Toby Nankervis, he was the first player in AFL VFL history to have 10 hit-outs and 10 tackles in a final.
Jeez. I guess that's something that you really like about Nankervis is that he goes really hard on the ground as well. Obviously, he's not the most mobile person. He's not the most mobile ruckman for that matter. But you can't buy grunt. That's something that just you're made of. And he's very capable of running around. And I wouldn't want to get tackled by him anyway.
He's just like the old reliable tractor. I think he only knows one speed, only travels at that. But the way that he goes at that speed, he goes pretty well. So just before as well, we dive into what happens this week. So we had two state league grand finals as well over the AFL preliminary final weekend. So we had the on Sunday we had the South Australian National Football League, which I actually follow quite closely because it's actually a very good competition. We saw Woodville West Torrens defeat North Adelaide. So for Woodville West Torrens, it was their first flag since 2011. They fell short in 2015 and 2016, and they were minor premiers in 2015, 2016, and 2017. They lost two preliminary finals in a row in 2017, and then the controversial 2018 preliminary final that had the 19-man issue against North Adelaide. And then we went on to the Tasmanian State League, which we saw a all Launceston grand final. So we saw Launceston upsetting North Launceston. Quite a big upset. North Launceston were going for 6 out of 7 grand finals. I think they're going for 4 in a row. And they finished well clear on top.
Well, there you go, mate. So it just explained for our audience how the kind of the setup in the Tasmanian League makes it a bit of a one-horse, well, not a one-horse, but a couple-horse race as opposed to a leveled-out league. Yeah,
so there is it's not looking that good for the Tasmanian State League. I think there's 7 or 8 teams in the comp from memory, and only 3 of those teams had a win percentage above 50%, and they were quite well above 50%. So, there were only really ever 3 teams in that premiership race, and realistically, there was only one team. That Launceston defeating North Launceston is actually quite an upset because everyone expected North to get up quite comfortably, and I reckon they won the preliminary final by about 70 or 80 points or something as well. It was pure domination.
Yeah, right. Now, so, and another question, this one might be ever so slightly off topic, but you, residing in the town of Biak, a long way west for those listeners that aren't aware, it's about an hour west of Geelong. So if you can Is the Sandful a big thing around your town, mate, or is it a bit too close to home for anyone else to be worrying about it?
No, not many people buy into the Sandful. There are a few people that I do speak to here, there, and around that, are aware of the Sandful. Probably don't follow it massively, but they usually know who wins the grand finals. But the Sandful it's actually a really good competition. And a lot, now we have that mid-season draft. A lot of players from the Sandful actually got picked up in the mid-season draft to go get an AFL opportunity. And also, I don't know if we covered it, but South Fremantle won the Waffle Grand Final.
I feel like it was being played
Claremont.
as we were recording.
Yeah, so South Fremantle beat Claremont. I think it was only just. But yeah, the Waffle, SANFL, and obviously the VFL are very good competitions to.
Yeah, well,
to
that was
follow.
my next question. Is if you had to pick one league that you'd have as the second tier for all of them, in terms of quality, where would you go?
VFL. Obviously, just with a lot more AFL affiliations.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of talk about AFL affiliations being booted out of this Sandful as well.
Okay.
The locals over there aren't really a fan of,
So what are the AFL
those.
affiliates in the Sandful?
Just Port and Adelaide.
Oh, so they're in there, are they?
Yeah. But they're actually not very strong either. They're not strong competitors. But also this year, Port nor Adelaide competed in the Sandful because of the whole AFL COVID bubble and all that.
Well, there you go. Geez, you really are full of knowledge tonight, Ned.
Try my best, mate. Try my best.
That's it. No, he's all hyped up.
Yeah. Let's just put it all aside because it's grand final time, mate.
That's right, mate. I was just about to say the only reason you're hyped up is because you've got a big game coming up on Saturday evening.
Yeah, it's going to be a real cracker game. Pretty nervous. I'm sweating more than a gypsy with a mortgage over this one, mate. I said, pretty early on in the year that I'm probably not going to care as much, if Richmond lose this grand final. But now that Richmond are playing Geelong and me being in the Geelong region, quite frequently.
Well, and there's more to that as well. So I'm not sure if our listeners are aware, but there is a bit of I wouldn't call it subtle. I'd call it very flamboyant dislike for Geelong that you possess. That can be made, that can be illustrated through your Snapchat story. I think it was on Saturday nights. Voicing displeasure of Geelong making it.
Yeah, look, it's the thing around Geelong and even, in areas around Geelong, like where I live, it's pretty straightforward. You either go for Geelong or you hate them. It's sort of like Collingwood in a sense. You either go for them or you extremely dislike them. You see a lot of people around Geelong driving around with they got their flags up and all that, and so be it. Should be happy your team's in the grand final and all that. I did roll around as public enemy number 1 in Geelong. I did have me Richmond mask and me Richmond hat going. I did cop a little bit of criticism, for my attire, but I suppose it'll be all worth it if the result swings a certain way.
You get
all that aside, there's a game we've got to talk about.
Yep. No, you get that with loyalty, but we'll have a quick look at the forecast. So on Saturday, it's going to be 28 degrees maximum. Will obviously be a bit cooler by that stage, considering it's a night grand final. I've got a 40% chance of rain and anywhere from 0 to 2 mil of rainfall. It's brought to you by the Bureau of Meteorology, so she's about as reliable as it gets. I reckon you'd be doing any kind of rain dance that at the moment, wouldn't you?
100%, mate. You know that I always rave on about, how Richmond play in the rain. It just suits the way they play. I'll be doing my rain dance, that's for sure. But yet again, I'm not banking on the rain because at the end of the day, you shouldn't let the weather have to decide if you're going to win or not. You know, you got to be, you know, you got to be the better side. So I'm just going to give you my keys for this game, and then you can give me your keys. So my keys, Richmond need to play the high pressure. We saw them do that very well against Geelong earlier in the year, where Richmond sort of played that high pressure and just not allowed Geelong to really have that nice control of the ball that they like to have. And also not allowed Geelong's superstars to get rolling. You know, you can't let Ablett off. I think rumor has it that the second best man since sliced bread will actually be playing on Gary Ablett, Liam Baker.
Jeez, I don't know. The second one is. I know the first one's Jack Graham.
The first one's Noah Bolter.
Oh, jeez, calm down, God.
But yeah, anyway, there was another thing I was going to say, what Richmond needed to do. It has sort of crossed my mind. But, clearance. Especially if Richmond done quite well over the clearances the last couple of weeks. That if they, play that really high pressure and also win the clearance, it's going to go a huge way because, we obviously saw Geelong, they demolished Brisbane in the centre. And then for Geelong, they just need to be clean. And they just can't allow any pressure from Richmond, any perceived pressure, especially a lot of their younger fellas. There will be a few blokes in that side that haven't played in the grand final. So, that bit of stage fright, perceived pressure. So that's my keys for the game.
Yeah, I think that in terms for Geelong to have a real good chance, we saw it last week against Brisbane. They need a lot of control, just to be cool, calm and composed as you do with the game style that they play. They tend to switch it a lot. And you saw a lot of that, hitting the open man out wide and trying to get some run through there. They also use the corridor a lot, which I was quite surprised with. They were using that in the first and second terms. So I don't think that Richmond's game plan will allow them to do that. I feel like, it'll force them into that long down the line style. So they'll have to make sure that they got their crummers in the right spots for that to allow quick outs. For Richmond, I just think that they have to do exactly what they've done this final series. I don't think there's anything new that they need to do. I think they've been the team to beat this final series so far. Even in that game they lost against Brisbane, they didn't necessarily play badly. It was just Brisbane played really well, and there was hints of undisciplined Tigers in there. So, the way that Brisbane has been playing last week in particular with their defensive structure, I think, Geelong's going to find it really difficult to get through that. I think in the last time they played, Geelong kicked 1 goal to 3/4 time. Was that correct? Or yeah. So, the pressure's going to be on them, and teams, you need a score to win the grand final, don't you? It's well documented.
Shouts out to Ross Lyon.
Yeah, that's it. It's well documented.
You might be able to
the
give
teams that defend don't win grannies. So you've got to be able to kick goals. Seems to be the first of 70 wins this year. So
also first goal. I think the first goal has lost.
I did see something like that earlier today.
I remember them saying it during the coverage of the 2019 grand final that I have rewatched a few times. I think it's it might have been the last 4 or something. So it might have been or the last 5 or something previous to 2019, before 2019. And then obviously that also eventuated in that game. So, I can't. I know Sydney kicked the first goal in 16. Yeah, it's got me buggered, but it's something like that.
All right, so we'll make a quick reference to our little tipping competition that we got. So we're not really showing our expertise, Ned, because we both got our tips last week wrong. So we're sitting on 3, and I think that's 3 out of 8. So we're failing. In terms of the margin.
To be fair, I did hear, I think, out of the 8 finals, 6 of them have been reverse results from the home and away season.
Okay. Oh, hey, look, I'll look for any excuse right now when I'm popping at 3 for 8, sounding like Danny Green from the 3-point line, except, points wise, I am on 222 and you are on 247. So I'm 25 points ahead of you heading into the grand final. We're even on tips. So it's percentage that separates us.
Jeez.
Now, here we go. Your grand final tip.
With absolutely no confidence whatsoever, Richmond by 13.
Richmond by 13. And is that anything in particular that swings you that way, or is it just your loyalty to the club, your biased view, want to see the Tigers get up for 3 out of 4?
Yeah, I'm probably going more out of my heart with this one. And I think you come this far, and I think you'd be in the same situation if St Kilda are in the grand final. You come this far, you gotta have the hope to win.
Well, that's what I did when I tipped St Kilda against Richmond. I don't think there was many brains in that.
That's all right, mate. Strength through loyalty. That's what they say about your mob. I like it. So, do you need a Dustin Martin medalist?
Go on. Give me your dustpan. Except it can't be Dusty. I'm not buying that.
Oh, why not? I was actually thinking to myself, whilst driving today, I thought it'd be pretty cool for Tom Lynch to win it as a bit of a funny story.
To the AFL world. To all
but I think it's time. If Richmond do win, obviously one person was quite robbed of. I didn't really think he was robbed of 17. He was very well in the contention for 2019. Bashar Hooley, for me, could finally get that medal that he's probably, he could have had.
It'd be a real feel-good story considering the year that he's had as well. He's had a lot of off-field, highs and lows. And, amazingly enough, still uncontracted for the end of the year. But I'd imagine that there'd be something sorted out fairly soon about that.
So he did speak on radio. I can't remember if it was SEN or Triple M. But he said he'll re-sign whatever offer he's given. I think he spoke pretty bluntly about Essendon making that offer for him to come back. He spoke pretty bluntly about it. Just speaking about robberies and the Norm Smith, I didn't think he was really robbed of 2017 because I thought there was someone more robbed than him. Jack Graham.
Mate.
He was robbed.
All
maybe he rights a horrible wrong. But what's your tip?
Well, the one thing that is 100% certain, Ned, is that one of us is going to be a winner of our little tipping competition based on points because I'm tipping Geelong. I'm tipping Geelong by 7 points. And the reason I'm doing that is because
your mother will beat you over the head if you don't pick him.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's exactly right for one reason. And, even though she lives a fair distance away now, it's a quick enough drive to come and belt me. So I want to stay in the good books as long as I can. If Geelong play their best football, I think it's better than Richmond's best football. That's a theory that I've adopted throughout the whole year. I think that Richmond's playing more consistent football and they're a better chance of playing their best footy. So hence such the small margin. In terms of the Norm Smith medalist, I'm going to go Mitch Duncan. And that was a toss between Mitch Duncan and Cam Guthrie. So, I'm a bit of a Cam Guthrie sympathiser. But, I reckon that Danger's going to get a fair bit of attention given to him, whether that's up in the forward line, where I'm assuming Grimes would go to him, or will Grimes go to Hawkins?
This is the thing. There's going to be Asprey, Bolter and Grimes.
Yeah.
So, there is going to be some good they're two tall timbers and then, a player that plays pretty well over and undersized.
Yeah. So, given that, I think that it's not going to stop Danger from having a good game. but I think that it will stop him from being best on ground. So I think Duncan's probably the best chance to, be pretty penetrating. I think he had, how many disposals did he have last week? But he kicked at 80, he had 87% efficiency or something like that, 24 touches. So that's about as good as it comes.
I know you're quite an intelligent man and you did way better at school at me, but your theory sucks.
My theory sucks based on the Norm Smith or...
No, your theory just sucks in general, if you ask me.
Yeah, look, I wasn't expecting you to buy it. If it was a Shark Tank, I wouldn't be asking for your money, that's for sure.
Yeah, but, look, not sold, mate, not sold.
No, that's it. No, that's all right. It's an opinion game, and hopefully there's one silly sod out there that decides to agree with what I'm saying, so I don't look like complete nuffy.
Yeah, I don't know if we have much Geelong following on our podcast, to be honest.
Yeah,
I know we have a lot of Essendon representation. We have a bit of Richmond. We have a fair bit of St Kilda.
Yeah, we got some Melbourne in there. So we got a nice little collective. We'll have to put that up as a poll leading into the game.
A bit of multiculturalism.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about, could chuck a poll. Who do you think will win? And then who do you want to win? That might be a, good little... Yeah. A way to find out how the crowd's feeling about it, but
we wouldn't have much North Melbourne following, wouldn't we? I wouldn't think so.
Ned, have you heard of anyone ever having lots of North Melbourne following?
I did see one post on Facebook today. That what did he say? The bloke said the fact that we're trying to stamp bullying out of school and all that for Footy Colours Day. Whatever you do, don't let your kid dress up in a North Melbourne kit.
I guess that I'll quickly point out, just while we're on the topic of North Melbourne, that North Melbourne and Reece Shaw have mutually agreed to part ways. So I guess, the main thing is for Reece Shaw to get back into, to feel better about whatever's happening right now. So the best of luck to him and in his journeys.
And watch this space as well, because I think there might be a big sort of discussion about the future of a smaller Victorian club. Not dropping hints.
Yeah, right. Jeez. All right. He's got his bloody sauces and everything, mate. You sound a bit like Damon Barrett.
Got me Worcestershire, my barbecue, my tomato, soy. Got all my sauces.
All right. Well, that's going to do us for tonight. I sincerely hope that you enjoy Saturday. Some are only as privileged to go and witness it this many times. And then I guess if Richmond win, you start looking, being called a bit of a dynasty. So,
bit of a dynasty.
That's it. Well, we're going to have to talk about that regardless of whether it's a win or loss. We'll talk about it in our next episode, which will review the grand final. And then we'll have another episode based on the clubs have exited and their season rankings. But until then, make sure you enjoy the grand final, Ned, and try not to celebrate too hard if your boys end up, lifting the premiership, the coveted Premiership Cup.
Yeah, look, I can't make any promises. Don't make any promises this time of the year, mate.
That's it. Can't make promises you can't keep.
Yeah, you enjoy the grand final as well.
All right, mate. Thanks for having us. Cheers.